we all know that Pixar has their villains, right? Well, what if I tell you this, that we get to see a list of take a look at a list of what I say consider the good and the bad. Some will rise up to the best, and others will not be able to hold it long enough to become, and others will not be any match. As well as we're also going to make a few restrictions before we get into the list. I will be excluding a few villains from this list, so we make things even as possible. We will be excluding some villains from the list. Go 4 from Wall-E will be excluded because, well, he's a bit annoying. We're also going to be excluding Mal Axwell from Cars 2 because, well, no one wants to talk about him. Finally, I will be also excluding Onward as well because, well, I don't think there's any villains in Onward, so we're going to just leave Onward alone for this time. Anywho, let's take a look at who is at the bottom of the list. And of course, our bottom villain at the list is none other than a call from Luca. Now, I have to mention that he is actually the worst Pixar antagonist and the worst bully antagonist. I mean, this guy is just so, bad. He's the worst. He's just, well, first of all, he's pretty annoying. Second of all, he's a big bully towards our characters, Luca and Migo, so that's another strike against him. And number 3, and the reason why Cole is this bottom on the list is because, well, he tripped Amigo and Julia for no good reason. And that, furthermore, is why Cole is at the bottom. Sorry, but we had to do it. Sorry, Cole. But don't worry, there will be better Pixar villains than this guy. But anywho, moving on. Next, we are moving on to Chick Hicks. Oh no, not this guy. Now, I know a lot of you guys are actually going to get a bit upset when I'm going to say this. Chick Hicks is actually the worst Cars villain of this, the worst Cars antagonist. Because, well, he's pretty annoying. And I get very aggravated every time he comes on screen. I mean, come on, man. Can you give Lightning a break here? Plus, he's a big cheater, by the way, which is why that's why you probably won't get me to see Cars, the first Cars, because he backtalks Lightning McQueen a lot here, people. And that doesn't make things worse because he made a cameo in Cars 3. Can we get a break from this guy, please? Can Lightning and me get a break from you at least? No, you don't have to be, we don't need you in Cars 3. We need a break. I think we need a break from you, Chick. Sorry. Next up, we are having Pixar's latest movie. Well, she's not really an antagonist, but I guess we're going to include her anyway. Meng Lee. Oh, come on, Ming. Can you do better than this? Well, at least she's not one of the worst Pixar antagonists or the worst Pixar character in general. It's just her role is just too obnoxious. She cuts down Ming Lee's life from her friends, and the worst part is she tries to remove the panda transformation forcibly. Well, at least she did turn into a giant panda herself, so we could get this over with. But here on the list that's on the bottom, she still needs to pay for the damages she did to this movie and the damages she did to the Four Town concert. Because I think she has a problem against Four Town. Maybe that's why I don't like her too much. And to finish off one of the worser Pixar antagonists, we have Chef Skinner from Ratatouille. Alright, I'm sorry to Ratatouille fans that I have to put him here. Sorry to put him here, guys. But I think this chef is not escaping the bottom of the list. Well, at least he gets to round out the worst ones, gets to finish off the worst ones. And I'm trying to get through them quickly so we can get to some of the good ones. Not the terrible ones, trying to finish up the bad ones so we can move on to the good ones. He's just not that interesting. And, well, He's a rat chaser, for instance. Sorry, for instance. Anywho, moving on to okay ones. And to start things off, we have Thunderclap from Good Dinosaurs. I said it's not real, like again, he's not the best Pixar villain, but hey, I can't see worse villains than he did. Well, I say he was kind of an okay villain, like he did a good job on his role. I just say maybe he should have shot it a bit higher. But I can't say that he still at least tried to get, at least it was still a good obstacle for our hero and made some entertainment. So at least this guy did his job at least. Next up we have Johnny Warburton from Monsters University. Oh boy, not another bully antagonist. Well, at least he's not as worse as a Cole, because he would probably be at the bottom if he was that obnoxious. The reason why I'm putting Johnny kind of low here is because, well, I don't like him too much. He's just a bully and he just talks down Mike a lot. And I just feel kind of a bit annoyed with him. Yeah, he's just a bit annoying. But at least he didn't do the worst thing. Well, I still am mad at him for what he did in this movie. I can forgive him for at least trying to do his job at least. Trying to trying to be a good bully antagonist without getting too obnoxious. And before we wrap things up with the final okay antagonist, I wanted to make a quick mention to, I don't think I can pronounce him correctly, but I'm going to try my best to pronounce it. Antonio Ika? I think that's how you pronounce it. Yeah, he's not from Ratatouille. Yeah, we had to include him since he's really not a villain, but I think it's mostly because his look, because he's not really a villain, and two, his look is kind of okay. I think they did a better job fixing it in Disney Emoji Blitz, but I guess a quick mention to this guy is just all we need. Quick mention to this guy is okay. I mean, at least he was able to make the movie to have some purpose of being a food critic and not doing anything completely annoying. And to wrap up the okay guys, we have Francesco from Cars 2. Oh boy, I am still mad at I'm still really mad at Francesco for how he talked to Lightning McQueen. Yeah, I'm still mad at Francesco, people. Yeah, he's a bit better than, I would say he's better than Chick Hicks for bully antagonists, but he's still obnoxiously annoying. Well, he keeps trash talking like McQueen. Kind of brags a lot. And it feels like he's just an annoying obstacle. He also insults Lightning McQueen. Once he had just had a fight, he still picks on Lightning McQueen. I mean, come on, man. Lightning McQueen just had a fight with Mater. Can you please give him a break? Yeah, not an obnoxiously bad villain, but I would say that he could have done a better job. But at least they didn't get obnoxiously annoying like a Cole did. But still, I think he should owe Lightning McQueen an apology. And here we go into the good categories. We're starting things off with the good villains, Otto from WALL-E and Jackson Storm from Cars 3. All right, we got to get another Cars villain in here. Now, both of them are, still good villains in general. They didn't do well. That was just a steering wheel, so he pretty can't do too much. And Jackson Storm is a new generation car. All he can do is just do the new generation training. That's all I can say. But what I can say that at least Jackson Storm still had a little enjoyment, especially being the bully antagonist, and he'll probably be the only bully antagonist I will watch, because I guess he would make a better bully antagonist than Cole was. But also they were still even though they're not some of the best antagonists, but they are still a nice obstacle for our hero and the Lightning McQueen, and a block for Lightning McQueen. A good obstacle for our hero and Lightning McQueen in his racing. And yes, Lightning McQueen And yeah, we probably needed that so we can see Lightning McQueen do his car crash. I mean, yeah, Lightning McQueen. And also, who doesn't enjoy the Lightning McQueen is fade? Yeah, because Lightning McQueen is fading. He is fading. Not bad, not good, but just good antagonists in general. They were able to be enjoyable antagonists without getting obnoxiously annoying. The next villain we are going to talk about is, well, I wanted to mention Gavi Gavi next. Well, not the most interesting villain, but again, she was still a good obstacle for Toy Story 4. All I can say is that she has one of the most creepiest henchmen. They're like Venom dolls, and they're like so creepy. No wonder some people get scared by these things. Except for me, I kind of have a nerve of steel. Nerves of steel, apparently. Next is De La Cruz from Coco. Well, I wanted to mention this guy at some point. I mean, he's not a terrible villain, but he is still a good obstacle for Coco. Coco, is not that bad. There's not a lot I can say about La Cruz. But I do like to shout during his songs for him to get off the stage, because Hector belongs on the stage, not him. Will you get off the stage already, man? Still interesting character, I guess. Next, we are going to do Syndrome. Not a character, but still interesting enough. As you know, he's kind of funny, and he got himself into a bit of trouble. And then Mr. Incredible stabbed him. Then Mr. Incredible rejected him, and well, I just want to say it didn't go out pretty. At least he does deliver some good moments in the movie, but I cannot put this supervillain any higher. Unfortunately, maybe some of the other Incredibles characters will go a bit higher than this guy. Well, hopefully. This guy will go. Unfortunately, can't go any higher, but at least some of the other villains are going to go a bit higher. Go a bit higher. Next up, I'm going to talk about Terry. Well, from the latest Soul movie, I actually can't put her that high. Because, well, for a good reason, she was only there to do her job. Well, just to do her job. At least she was interesting, but not too bad of a character. But I guess I'll take the. But if they want to put her in here, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with that. I just find the other Pixar, the other Soul character, more interesting. And the next one we're gonna next, and wrapping up the good area, is Evelyn Develer from Incredibles 2. Wrapping up the good area. I mean, she's not a terrible villain, but she did a good job on her part, but she could have done a bit better. Just saying, she could have done a better job. She did have a good look, though. Like, I was still surprised that they never showed her in the marketing for any trailers of Incredibles 2, so that was kind of a bit of a surprise. So that earns her a couple of extra points. But due to some points being taken away, I can't put Evelyn Develer any higher. However, I think her looks is still nice enough to get her here, but not any further than that. And I'm gonna wrap things up here with the good ones with Charles Munt. Yeah, let's just make a quick mention about this guy. I mean, he's not a terrible antagonist, but I think he's just all right. Again, I guess he's all right enough. Not too much I can say about Charles Munt, but I just find his dogs more interesting. Sorry, Charles. I just find your dogs more interesting than you. you, but hey, not bad of a guy, right? And moving on to some of the more gooder characters, we're moving on to finally we are getting to some of the favorites. But before we do, let's make one quick mention about Mr. Incredible's boss before we get into the favorite ones. Favorites. I say this is the one that stretches into the half point of getting into the favorite area, but he was close enough. He was so close to getting into the good favorites area, he just didn't make it. He didn't make the cut. All I can say is he was still an interesting guy at least. At least he was only there for one scene, but unfortunately Mr. Incredible had to throw him through 5 walls, and well, he also got fired in the process. Not a bad guy, but he was close to getting to the favorites. But if he could have had something more, to do, then that could have got him a bit higher, but not a terrible guy. And now we are getting into the favorites, the favorite category, the ones that we definitely serve as the best. We're getting into the ones of the best of the best. Yes, starting things off with Lotso Huggenbear. Well, I just want to say he's an interesting character at least. I mean, he went a bit higher than Gabby because, well, Gabby couldn't go too higher. All she could make it was maybe after Jackson, Storm, and Otto. But she couldn't make it any further than that. Lotso, on the other hand, is a more interesting character, and this is actually the only other Toy Story villain I'm going to mention. No, I am not counting Ken because Ken is not really a villain. So sorry fans of Barbie. It's not really a villain, so I have to exclude Ken for some reason. But again, not too much to say about this guy, but he still has a good interesting, made Toy Story 3 a little interesting. And he had some interesting. Plus, he smells like strawberry. He had a good backstory, and you can't blame the guy for making it higher. That smells like strawberries. So it looks like we are at the moment you all been waiting for, the top 6. Yeah, we're getting into the favorites, of course, with the top 6. The best villains of Pixar. Starting things off in 6th place, we have Mirage from Incredibles. Alright, so this is the last Incredibles villain I will be talking about. Well, maybe not a villain in general, but hey, you gotta include her. I mean, I said before I would keep Syndrome and Mirage together and one specific other person. Anywho, there's not too much to say about her, but she does have an interesting look and she has a good hate plot like the sidekick to Syndrome. But at least she does something entertaining and has a change of heart. Again, not too much to say about Mirage, but if you're wondering how she got this higher up, maybe she's more interesting than the other Incredibles villains? I don't know how she got to number 6. Moving along into 5th place, we have Darla. Well, could have made the top 3 list, but unfortunately, well, since we have other better Pixar villains that are coming up on this list, Darla misses the top 3. Well, she got close to the top 3. I don't know if she got to the close to the top 3. Well, at least she is an interesting villain, at least to get her excited for Get Me. At least they do talk about her a lot, maybe just to get excited for when she actually shows up. And yeah, I think she has interesting, at least she has a good amount of screen time at least. Again, not too much to say about her, but hey, you gotta include her on the list. Nearly making it to the top 3, we have Mordo from Brave. Well, you gotta include at least somebody from Brave, right? I mean, come on, you can't do the list without Mordo. At least he has an interesting concept, even though I don't think he showed up a lot in the movie. But at least he's, well, a good reminder, maybe a good interesting villain, and and maybe teaches Merida a lesson about, reminds Merida not to go that fast. I say not a major villain because he probably didn't show up too much, but at least he was interesting for a movie, since that's probably why he didn't make it to the top 3, because he didn't show up a lot. But at least I think that I'd rather care about the movie, but the movie and throwing this guy in is just interesting enough. Making it into the top 3, we have Paul next from Soul. Even now, before I get to talk about this guy, let me discuss about the elephant in the room. That, yeah, a lot of people are going to complain he's not a major villain because he didn't appear for too long. But I think he's kind of important, so we're going to include him on the list. Important to the movie on the list. Sure, he can talk about, he can trash talk Joe a lot, but at least he's like a better antagonist, like a better bully antagonist. I mean, better than he did a good job even though he had only a short amount of screen time. But I say there were like one specific other villain. I mean, at least he's better than Duncan from Monsters at Work. Oh, how much I hated Duncan. I mean, the first few episodes with him and Monsters at Work is fine. I mean, he kind of got a bit annoying. But the time he gets to now episode number 5, he gets aggressively annoying. And I don't mean to be mad or anything, but I am not watching any more Monsters at Work until Duncan is out of the show. Thank you. Anywho, I say Paul is better for an antagonist. Well, not a major antagonist, but he still got the appropriate amount of enough screen time. I mean, maybe he was only there for like a couple of minutes, but even though he can trash talk Joe a lot, but he is still an interesting character, and maybe 22 maybe gave Paul a little kindness. I mean, especially he was bullying her, even though she's in Joe's body, which is kind of confusing. But at least she gave Paul a little kindness. And then Terry had to show up and, well, yeah, Terry took Paul's soul out by accident. I mean, come on, Terry. I mean, that's the worst thing you can do for your job. I mean, how can you not tell Joe and Paul apart? Paul has a spiky hair, for crying out loud. But maybe Joe and Paul might have changed either by 22's kindness or Terry putting a little fear into him. I don't know. Maybe he can. Maybe Paul can change, or you probably will still be picking on. Maybe he'll continue picking on Joe because they're neighborhood rivals, for crying out loud. But even though he had a short amount of screen time, I guess it makes sense for only having him for a little bit. I mean, if he needed longer screen time, it would be okay, but I was expecting like him being in there longer, but I guess a short amount of screen time is fine. Moving into the top 2, our runner-up, we are going with Alpha, the dogs from Up. Yeah, I had to get Charles Munt's dogs in here at some point. Yeah, I said before that I would be getting the Pixar villains together, well, except with the exception of Otto and Go 4, because I had to separate them because Go 4 can be a little annoying. But back on Alpha for a minute. Alpha, I think counting Alpha, all the dogs are interesting. I mean, they do serve as an interesting character because, well, for one of them sounds like Alvin. I mean, come on, this guy sounds like Alvin. Maybe because his voice doesn't work well. Voices change. But at least they got an interesting character villain, and they do have some great, interesting stuff with Doug. I mean, their interaction with Doug. Also, they made him wear the cone of shame. But I mean, they are interesting characters, but I wouldn't say nothing. They still had an interesting character and made the movie pretty enjoyable. But I think there is one other villain that I kind of like a slight better. Well, I would say a group. And making it to the top Pixar villain spot, we got the Lemons from Cars 2. Well, we're only going to exclude the tow... Well, we're going to count all the Lemons, well, excluding the tow truck guy that works with the Lemons and Miles, because no one wants to talk about Miles, for goodness sakes, for crying. No one wants to talk about Miles. Anywho, the Lemons, excluding the ones that I'm not going to talk about, they are an interesting group. I mean, even though a lot of people hate Cars 2 because it's just a spy movie, I think it found these villains probably interesting. I mean, maybe Acer and Gilbert are like the most interesting. Most interesting because, well, one of them actually got sent to the pound. Acer, there was a character elimination and Acer got sent to the pound. Also, I don't think Gilbert wanted to join him in there because I think he hates the pound. They are interesting villains and do serve an interesting plot to the movie, at least. Not a lot I can say about these guys, but hey, they are still great villains and they do get the job done. And that's a wrap for the Pixar villains. So what did you think of the list? Yeah, sorry about the list. I hope you guys liked it, at least liked it. It's a pretty good list. We had some pretty good villains to remember, some okay ones, and some pretty bad ones. And before I end the video, I don't hate Go 4 from WALL-E. Also, Cole, I'm never going to forgive you for what you did to Luca and Amigo.